Welcome to the IVM Podcast Network.
If you like listening to Simplified, you must listen to other IVM productions like TFG, The Fan Garage, which gives you a daily sports fix of cricket, badminton, Indian football, and even fantasy cricket. Listen to it on any of the podcasting apps or on IVM's podcast app as well.
Hello, Simblifieders.
Oh, so now we have a collective noun for people to listen to the show?
Well, I wanted to make one. Any suggestions?
A gullible of simplified listeners?
Wasn't Mitro called the collective noun for a large group of people who are about to get screwed or something?
True. So we need a collective noun for a small but growing set of people who are about to become smarter.
A school of simplified listeners?
No, but it needs to become ostensibly smarter with very little input.
Oh, an MBA of simplified listeners.
That sounds right. Bingo.
Yeah. So, hello, MBA of listeners. Which is now what we are going to collectively call.
Yeah, it's an MBA of listeners.
Yeah, an MBA of listeners.
And welcome to the foremost podcast whose epicenter is in Malad. We are your jolly hosts. I am Sriket.
And I'm Chuck. Most of the poor jokes on this podcast are mine.
And I'm Naren. I bring the worldly wise wisdom and good looks and
clearly not the script. Okay. Yeah. In case you're joining us for the
first... And definitely not the humility of the show.
In case you're joining us for the first time, guys, Simplified is a show that deconstructs things that happens around you, simplifies them in language that you can understand, and take the practical upshot and impress people with your knowledge. Along the way, there are likely to be several bad jokes, PG Woodhouse references, and hey, this paragraph is there verbatim on Wikipedia also.
And probably I wrote it. We should start this week by celebrating the major success of Digital India. This is the time when a man who besieged Hindu men to rape the dead bodies of Muslim women became the CM of India's most important electoral state. So we needed something light to take your minds off that horrible fact, and levity came in form of a spoilt hard disk. Not just any hard disk, but one containing data of corrupt officials. Just like that, the CVC's website crashes.
Central Vigilance Commission.
Is this something like how there was a fire in Mantralaya conveniently but unfortunately burned only those RTI documents which are connected with the...
Specifically on that floor.
Yeah. The fire went...
Very specifically directional vector-based fire.
Surgical fire.
Surgical fire. You can argue that this is a way more eco-friendly and cheap method actually to get rid of data than like a fire. Before there was a damage of half a floor, noxious gases, all the cleaning up and all that. Here all that's needed is a fresh Seagate that's ordered from Amazon. Lower ecological footprint. Hard disk drives though are terribly similar to politicians. They have a life cycle of around 4 years and are supremely prone to corruption.
Brilliant.
So I wanted to see why hard disk drives get spoiled. There are several actually reasons. Manufacturer faults, problems with brand new disks, heat, improper ventilation. Heat can damage the internal moving parts, power surges or corrupted files. But the one that could be the most frustrating is mechanical failure, because chances of recovery are super slim and very expensive if this happens. Your hard disk drive won't detect, and there are random noises coming from the disk.
Yeah, I can relate to this because a couple of years back, my prized hard drive on which I store all my photos, like since 2002, 3, whatever, from the time I had a digital camera, that drive got corrupted. And as it happens, I had lost the hard drive that had the backup. And I had no choice because this is not music that I could re-download or TV shows I could re-download or documents which had served their purpose after being sent to a client and put him to sleep. This was actually all my photos, all my memories, and many of these were not backed up on Facebook and things because, hey, we didn't have those back in the day, right? So I actually paid close to 35,000 for restoring the data. Wow. Thankfully, we got back all of it.
But it's quite priceless, that kind of info.
Yeah, it is priceless. So it was a huge decision to make. But yeah, moral of the story, back up your data like once a quarter, once a month, whatever it means to you. I mean, it's a very, very cheap investment to make.
Yeah. Or save it on the cloud and then then pay Google later for getting it back.
Yeah.
So what is the profundity of the week?
Yeah, you're waiting to ask that. Okay, here we go. Again, the source for this doesn't need to be said anymore. Regular Simplified listeners will know. And new listeners can very easily guess, actually. Okay, this shows a man with a cape wearing stilettos for some reason on top of a very, very rocky patch. For one, okay, that might be a woman. I'm not quite sure. But that is definitely not trekking apparel or shoes. Anyway, and it says FEAR has two meanings. The first is forget everything and run. Or the second one is face everything and rise.
Wow.
The choice is yours. Good morning. Absolutely. And this also is watermarked by living the law of attraction. I have no idea what that means. And the metaphor for this, it's almost like a dystopian image where there's a woman with a cape on stilettos during a trek. I'm not quite sure how she managed to get up that pile of rubble, which has a lot of high rises and stuff in the background. So
law of attraction must be gravity, right? Like M1, M2, what is that? The inversely proportional to the square of the distance.
In any case, I have a better expansion for FEAR. It is forwarding exceedingly annoying rubbish.
Fair enough. That sounds about right.
Very good and very accurate.
Right.
So I have this nice story about trekking which I can. So a bunch of my friends, they went to this place called Bali Pass. Okay, Bali Pass is some severely mountaineering level place to go to. It's up there and snowbound and all. So
India.
India. So they have 4 or 5 of them. I was going to be part of them. For some reason I couldn't go. I had a lot of work. And these guys went. They had a bunch of mountaineers with them. And apparently these guys were going extremely budget. Okay, so they shopped around so the mountaineering guys also mighty kacha. So the protocol in these things is you basically put one rope on one rock. Okay, so the experienced guy puts it, and then he gives you the rope, which you tie around your waist, and then you catch that rope and you go up that rock.
Sounds like a good thing to skimp money on, no?
Yeah. So the thing is, the last guy, there's one guy, the other end of the rope is put on the other side of the rock, and then, you basically walk down, you walk across whatever, secure in the knowledge that that rope is tied to your waist. And after everything is done, after all the guys have crossed wherever they're supposed to cross, the last mountaineering, the team guy, the porter, is supposed to clamber up to the rock which the rope was tied to, get that rope and come down. So after some time, these people become very supremely confident. So going all over these edges, precipices and all, and bintas looking, secure, the rope is there, you can't fall there. And then they realize that the last guy, in order to save time and labor, he was removing that rope and holding it. So last guy is being walked like a puppy.
Wow.
Quite.
This is the type of stuff that makes it to tinkle, no? On that note, let's take a little break before we get into the meat of this episode, which is not banned in UP.
Yeah, so be right back.
Hi, I'm Amit Verma, the host of the weekly podcast, The Seen and the Unseen. In my show, I examine the seen effects and the unintended consequences of public policy and private action. I show how policies meant to help the poor often end up hurting the poor. I've done episodes so far on demonetization, GST, surgical strikes, immigration and MRP. And I will continue my forensic assault on the truth in the weeks to come. Catch the show every Monday on iTunes, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast app, and go to seenunseen.in for all the latest updates.
Welcome back to the promised non-veg part of this episode, which is meat. Today, I am going to talk about something very inherent in us.
Us specifically as in simplified hosts, or our ability to bullshit on and on for hours on end, under the pretense of, what do? Educating people, but actually making no sense and using it as an excuse to slip in the odd P.G. Woodhouse quote. Jeeves, there are times in life when one wonders if trousers matter. And Jeeves says, the moment will pass, sir.
Oh, fantastic. But no, Naren, I was actually talking about all humans, actually. And that's DNA.
Good old deoxyribonucleic acid, or Danny A to his friends. So what light do you want to shed on this vital molecule, Chuck?
Increasingly, there is talk about DNA being used as a storage device. So that piqued my interest, as it were. But before that, let's address the elephant in the room. The person who discovered DNA.
I don't like how this is going.
His male child seemed to have a pain in the neck. So the scientist said, what, son? Crick?
Terrible. So terrible.
I know. Sorry. We have to get it out of the way.
Of
course.
No, anyway, it's important we understand what DNA itself is before jumping into how we can put all our pawn on it. Marketing majors would be shocked to know that DNA is actually a thing, okay, and it's not like just something that is part of every brand, like DNA of Amul, DNA of Coke.
That comes from deep within your marketing DNA. साला हर चीज में DNA.
Yeah. Well, like, wow, this thing actually exists in real life, is it?
Yeah. So before Chuck makes a joke on all the other parts of the cell, let me step in here. For easy comparison, let's take a PowerPoint presentation, something we are all very familiar with, especially Chuck and I. It's made up of hundreds or maybe thousands of slides. Each slide is made up of bullet points, poorly formatted, overworded bullet points, as is norm. Each bullet point is made up of words. Each word is made up of...
Alphabets?
Usually, yes, but this is a marketing PowerPoint presentation, so guess. The entire presentation is basically a collection of millions of little pieces of gas. Just like that, the bodies of all living creatures have very basic chemicals called amino acids, which together form proteins, which then of course go on to form cells, which then go to form organs, which when put together form organisms. And this process is true no matter whether you're a cute kitten or a great white shark, or whether you're Elon Musk or of course Donald Trump.
Oi. I'm willing to challenge you on the fundamental composition of Trump, okay? I have a sneaky suspicion that his molecular code is made out of gold flake sewage rather than proteins, but perhaps that's an explanation for another time.
So what happens is new proteins need to be made all the time in our body. But proteins have to be made in a very specific shape. Otherwise it goes all wrong and becomes unusable. Much like, just imagine like there's a guitar with no place to put strings. Useless like that. Or a Kingfisher Airlines stock document in 2015. Useless like that.
Unless it is printed on soft and absorbent paper.
Or any copy of the Times of India.
For sure.
In order to ensure that new proteins are made exactly the way that they should be, there are a set of codes. Hundreds of codes for hundreds of proteins. All these codes are written in a book. It's a very, very difficult to read book called DNA.
Very good.
And it's difficult to read not because it's long, terribly boring and makes zero practical sense like Lord of the Rings.
Come on.
It's because it's long and spirally. So TLDR, DNA is like this massive line of code which holds the key to making proteins. But the DNA itself can't be bothered to move. So it conveniently creates copies of parts of itself and shuttles these off to protein making factories called ribosomes. Here, proteins are made according to the genetic code contained in the RNA. And in the meantime, people from Lokhandwala, Andheri are like, bro, why so much trouble to get protein? Just go to Rocky Fitness, no? So net DNA is a programming language of our body.
Which is why I suppose a wrong line of code can lead to some flawed programs like Donald Trump.
The president of the USA cannot be compiled. Programming error. Abort now.
Thank you for that biology lesson, Chuck. We should get back to storage now.
That's my memories. No, when was the last time you heard the word ribosomes?
I know.
Yeah. So DNA can be artificially synthesized in laboratories and can also be read. Okay. This is nothing new. Research for this has been going on for years, if not decades, courting some controversy as well, like what with cloning and stuff being involved. So, but let's not get into that right now. Of course, many humans should not be too scared of this either because for years the pop music industry has been using algorithms to pretty much churn out the same song year after year and we don't seem to mind.
I am assuming you didn't exactly like Shape of You by Ed Sheeran now.
You guessed correctly. So what happened is last year, scientists at the University of Washington successfully stored on and recovered data from artificially synthesized DNA.
Wow.
Yeah. So firstly, there's a fact that DNA was made in a lab, and then there was a fact that they were able to store data on it and then retrieve data from it. Now, you might wonder what the big whoop about all this is and whether it's worth breaking our collective scientific heads over, figuring out if you need to buy your own personal DNA printer. But get this, 1 cubic millimeter. 1 millimeter cube can store an exabyte of data.
Wow.
That's 10 raised to 18 bytes.
Wow.
If you can't picture that, that's basically a million TB.
Wow.
Okay, so let's assume that a single music file is 50 MB if you want to listen to it properly in FLAC, that is.
Of course, if you have not guessed so far, Chuck is a music snob of Simblified.
Hey, Amit agreed to this episode being recorded in high-res audio anyway. So if just assume that a song is 50 MB, okay, so that means 1 TB can hold around 20,971 songs. So 1 million TB holds, and I kid you not, 20,971,520,000 songs. And you usually see numbers only like this when the Congress commits a scam. Now, assuming each song is 5 minutes, that's a lot of minutes, which is basically 199,500 years of music.
Holy shit.
Almost 200,000 years of music in 1 cubic millimeter.
Wow.
That's basically the point that I was trying
Amazing.
to make.
Incredible packing density of information.
Yeah. They say that the entire content of the internet, the whole bloody internet, all right, can be stored in an area as large, and I use that term very loosely over here, a sugar cube. So that's like the pop culture representation now, or the entire content of the internet equal to 1 sugar cube.
Wow.
So that's basically the upshot of this.
So how come it's so efficient in storage? This is like, it's not just exponential, this is like a whole new paradigm, right? So my first guess is that current storage puts data on zeros and ones, where DNA has 4 things, right? A, C, G, T.
Wait. I remember this stuff. Adenine, cytosine, guanine, and
thymine.
Thymine.
Correct.
Yes.
The 4 components of DNA. Don't worry, we shall visit them again in the pun run section of this.
Of course.
Sorry about that. I see the RNA in your brain is working fairly well.
Yes.
So yes, that is one of the reasons. But that's another reason actually. DNA, like Donald Trump, is extremely dense. DNA, unlike Donald Trump, is very compact. So it's a combination of both.
This reminds me of this. You know, they had a controversy about Donald Trump saying mean things about Miss Universe winner because she bloated up too much.
Yeah.
So my suggestion at that time, I thought it was very clever, but nobody sort of was that he should have, instead of saying all those nasty things, he should have called her Miss Early Universe. Because she was hot, dense, and rapidly expanding. Yeah.
If that mic was not tethered to that pole, you would drop it and walk away right now.
So where were we? Okay. So DNA is extremely dense and it's very compact. So it's a combination of both these factors that makes it actually very good storage. Additionally, other storage devices like Donald Trump are prone to corruption. Hard disk drives, unlike Donald Trump, need a constant supply of electricity to keep them running. Hence the maintenance of which, like Donald Trump, works out super expensive and some would say needlessly so. DNA storage is, like Donald Trump, seemingly resistant to everything, and in fact scientists have found actual natural DNA that, like Donald Trump's supporters believes, dates back to prehistoric times.
I like how Donald Trump is required to explain everything about DNA storage.
So, long story short, there are a lot of advantages of, apart from the fact that a lot of data can be stored in very, very small areas of DNA storage. It's also the fact that it's resistant to almost everything. So, like a CD drive, a CD, for instance, a small scratch and is rendered useless. A flash drive or a hard disk can fail because of a mechanical error or formatting problem or something at any point of time.
Correct.
But DNA is like resistant to,
pretty much everything.
Pretty much all that.
And on that note, we are going to take a small break, the duration of which would probably take a 0.01% of a cubic mm of DNA storage.
I have a feeling that's still about a few millennia, but okay. We'll be back sooner than that.
Yeah, see you around.
Every week comes a show where 3 people come together to tell you about stuff they like. A movie, a TV show, a book, and other stuff. Tune in every Monday on iTunes, Audio Boom, the IVM Podcast app, to IVM Likes. Batman approves this message. Thank you, Batman.
And welcome back to part 3 of this podcast. And unlike the Godfather and Matrix series, we promise you this part 3 will be worth your time.
Oh. Wow, you're on a streak of bashing pop culture today, aren't you?
And don't even get me started on Game of Thrones. Anyway, before we start this, it's important for you guys to know the first images that were ever transferred through this medium. It's a historic moment, guys. You're on the verge of successfully completing an experiment that could actually change human lives and the world, reduce storage by thousands of percentage points, pretty much save all the electricity that's being used to power storage, because DNA doesn't need electricity to power it, unlike our hard disks and servers. So you want these images to be iconic, right? The first images that are going to be transmitted, these are going to be the one giant step, or good luck Mr. Gorski, of DNA storage. And it started off well. There were 3 images. The first of them was the Sydney Opera House. Nice choice, nice sunset, nice colourful crowd.
Evocative,
yeah. So, and the second pick was a cat with its tongue out.
Of course.
Okay, charming, but perhaps succumbing to their preponderance on the internet. Perhaps a hat tip to the role played by ancient Egyptians in solid-state binary device storage technologies.
My God.
Perhaps. And the third picture, I kid you not, they had literally all the options in the world. Let's pause and think. They had millennia of content, 2000 if you're Christian, worth of content that they could put out. Like every single picture ever imaginable. And they go with the monkey smiley. The one of him covering his face. That's right. That picture was a meta for itself.
Wow.
Imagine, there'll be a museum somewhere with the Mona Lisa. Right next to it, Graham Bell's telephone. Next to it, the first computer to have internet on it. And next to it, a pixelated image of a stupid monkey sheepishly covering his face as if he'd send the proposal for a business pitch to his girlfriend and a proposal for fellatio to a major MNC client's marketing manager.
Though going true to form with marketing industry with clients, it will never get read. Never get read even. And not a bad idea. Basically how that works also, isn't it?
Acha, so when can we expect to buy these DNA-based pen drives, Chuck?
Yeah, I think you just need to... I don't count on the next big billion sale for that. I must say that the University of Washington experiment, of which we talked about, that is writing data on and retrieving data from DNA, that experiment, it wasn't the first time storage and retrieval was done, actually. 4 years ago, scientists from the European Bioinformatics Institute in Cambridgeshire in UK successfully did exactly the same thing. And their body of work, which they transferred onto a DNA and extracted, was 154 of Shakespeare's sonnets, 26-second audio clip of the I Have a Dream speech by Martin Luther King, and the well-known paper on the structure of DNA by Watson and Crick themselves, and a photograph of the EBI headquarters in the UK, and of course a file describing the methods behind converting the data. So all this they managed to put onto DNA and extract from DNA. The difference between the 2013 experiment and the one that they did right now, which is causing waves, is in the 2013 experiment, the entire strand of data would have to be sequenced even if you want a small piece of information, which is to say that mention all these things, Shakespeare sonnet and the speech, etc., etc. Suppose you wanted only like the photograph of the headquarters, you would still have to like sequence everything else. So you had no choice, and this is a painfully long process. So it's not like it takes like a couple of minutes or seconds more. You actually have it's really long time that it takes to sequence everything just to get that one small thing that you want. And that practical application for us is very difficult, right? Like a major factor for us for this technology to be practical is that we select whatever parts we need from what is stored. So this is why the second experiment is as important and path-breaking. So Srikanth, I don't think we are going to be able to see cool pen drives anytime soon. Sorry. The thing is, you see, it's still supremely expensive. The 2013 experiment cost $12,400 to encode data and $220 for retrieval of data per MB.
Damn.
Yeah, that's a total of $12,620 per MB. Wow. If you run that by our earlier music example, the 1 millimeter cube full of high-res FLAC music would cost $12 billion. Or roughly 164,000 times the GDP of the entire world right now.
But I am regular customer. मेरे लिए price बोलना.
5% discount.
Yeah, I know. 5% discount.
5% cashback.
I know.
Oh man, DNA app. Don't.
I know. How much cashback will I get on this?
First MB retrieval
So
free.
someone's been really using Windows
like
calculator.
you use a Domino's code like FRI, FRK or something.
Fryfruck on DNA, but with ACTG.
ACTG. Yeah.
But seriously, costs are rapidly shrinking, and we should have some sort of consumer product in about 10 years' time. So, some manifestation of this we will see in our lifetime. And it's good that it's going to come in 10 years' time, because scientists estimate that by 2040, here's another whole new problem. We'll run out of silicon on the planet to power storage devices needed to keep pace with storage demands.
Because all of those existing silicon chips will be friggin' filled with like 2 Dream Theater songs or something. Nah? Snobs like you will be like insisting on listening to all the music in FLAC.
Yeah, and that's all that we have for you on this episode of Simblified.
I do not like that grin on your face, Chuck.
That can mean only one thing.
You must be wondering how I know so much about the components of DNA.
Not really.
That's because I had a nose in DNA.
Oh, dear Lord.
Yeah. Simon and Garfunkel featuring Watson and Crick. Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme.
Thanks for ruining that song for me forever.
Lizards, my friends, on the other hand, have a different component in their DNA. They have something called iguanine.
Wow.
Get it?
Make it stop. Just make it stop. At least there's probably only one left, I guess.
No. The fourth component, I couldn't make a joke on it. So let's go to other parts of the cell now. In the good old days, along with protein, women who worked in the fields used to carry food grains and they held them very close to their breasts. Hence, it was said that protein is made by ribosomes. Correct.
I think half of my DNA just committed genetic suicide.
Yeah. Anyway, in this form, the woman's mobile phone ran out of power until she realized that her corn dehumidifying machine could power it. So you could say that might a corn dryer is the powerhouse of the cell.
Oh God. I genuinely don't know what to say anymore.
Terrible, man. This is like mitochondria. All spontaneously, all mitochondria going on strike and all. Destroy Chuck.
Okay, so that's all I have. Sorry.
We're very sorry about that, listeners. Apparently, that's the USP of the show now, though.
Yeah. So while we still maintain some sanity, let's sign off. This has been Simplified, your fortnightly dose of wisdom.
And if you haven't subscribed to us already, now would be a good time. Get out your phones, download a good podcast app like Pocket Cast. Those unlucky enough to still be on Apple devices, you can use that stupid native podcast app, what you have. And search for Simplified and just subscribe to us. You can also find us on several places on the web by just typing in Simplified, telling Google, no, you did not mean Simplified, and clicking on many of the sites that host our feed. We recommend Audioboom.
And we would also recommend downloading the IVM app, where you'll find not just our podcast, but a bunch of others as well. Check them out. And we will see you soon in a fortnight with more wisdom and more bad jokes.
Yes. Have a great fortnight.
Please do come back. We are not all bad.
Bye.
एक्सक्यूज मी भैया, एक्सक्यूज मी,
बोलिए मैडम।
मेन्यू में क्या है?
मेन्यू में सीन अनसीन है, पॉडकास्ट है, ऑन कोर्स है, साइरस है, मेड इन इंडिया, रीडिस्कवरी प्रोजेक्ट, एम्पावरिंग सीरीज, सेक्स वेक्स है, IVM लाइक्स है, सिंप्लीफाइड है, कीपिंग इट क्वियर है, थिंग्स एंड डेस्टिनेशंस है, माय नेबर जकरबर्ग है और द फन गराज है। आपको क्या चाहिए?
एक बार रिपीट कर देंगे क्या?
रिपीट नहीं करता हम। आप जाओ IVMpodcast.com पे और सुनो ये सब, या फिर डाउनलोड करो उनका ऐप, सब आपकी उंगलियों पे।